The Galactic Council, a coalition of the most powerful and ancient alien species in the known universe, had always maintained strict control over the lesser worlds. Earth was one of those worlds, a small, insignificant blue planet that had only recently developed space travel. To the Council, humanity was nothing more than an upstart race that needed to be reminded of its place. It all started with a message, a hologram projected over every major city on Earth. Towering alien figures with shimmering skin and glowing eyes addressed humanity with a cold, calculated tone. "People of Earth," one of the alien leaders spoke, his voice resonating with an unnatural hum. "You have trespassed into Galactic Council territory. Your advancements have not gone unnoticed. In accordance with the Treaty of Unified Dominance, your world is to offer tribute, resources, labor, and allegiance. Failure to comply will result in eradication." The message repeated every hour, echoing through the streets, on screens, and even through personal devices. The world leaders scrambled to understand the implications, their meetings frantic and desperate. Panic spread like wildfire. Social media was ablaze with theories and debates, while protesters flooded the streets, some calling for submission, others demanding resistance. Amidst the chaos, one man refused to bow. Colonel Adrian Kane, a battle-hardened veteran known for his unyielding spirit, stood before the United Nations Assembly. His presence alone silenced the room. "Listen to me," Kane said, his voice strong and unwavering. "If we bend the knee to these alien overlords now, we are condemning ourselves to slavery. They see us as nothing but resources to be exploited. This is not a time for fear. It's a time to fight." Some of the politicians scoffed, calling him reckless. But Kane didn't care. He knew fear when he saw it, and he also knew how to use it. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, and Kane continued. "We've faced threats before. We've stood against armies and dictators. We've rebuilt from ruins and survived against odds that should have destroyed us. This is no different. We either stand together and fight, or we submit and die as slaves. I know what I'm choosing." The debate raged on, but slowly, one by one, leaders began to rally behind him. People who had been cowering in fear found hope in Kane's words. Around the world, militaries mobilized, scientists scrambled to develop defenses, and engineers began converting mining lasers and space probes into makeshift weapons. 2 weeks later, the Galactic Council's warships appeared in Earth's orbit, massive behemoths of steel and plasma, blotting out the stars. The hologram returned, the alien leader's face twisted with contempt. "You have refused our generous offer," it declared. "Your insolence will be punished. Prepare for annihilation." Kane, watching from the command center of the newly christened flagship Defiance, smirked. He leaned forward and pressed the transmission button. "Galactic Council," he said, his voice dripping with defiance. "Your demand for tribute has been heard. Here's our reply: hell no." Across the globe, humans watched the transmission with pride, their hearts swelling with a sense of unity they hadn't felt in decades. The alien leader's eyes glowed with anger. "So be it," it hissed. "You will be erased from existence." The war was about to begin. Humanity was outgunned, outnumbered, and technologically inferior. But they had one thing that no alien empire could match: their unbreakable will to survive, and their burning desire to be free. And as the first volley of plasma beams lit up the sky, humanity knew one thing for certain: they would fight until their last breath. The first strike came without warning, a blinding flash of emerald light that sliced through the upper atmosphere and slammed into the Pacific Ocean, vaporizing miles of water in an instant. The shockwave traveled across the globe, shaking skyscrapers and rattling bones. Kane watched the satellite feed with grim determination, his jaw clenched as he turned to his second-in-command. Major Elena Ruiz. "They're testing us," he muttered, "trying to intimidate us." Ruiz nodded, her face pale but resolute. "We have the railguns charged and primed, Colonel. Surface-to-orbit missiles are standing by, but the targeting systems are struggling to keep up with their cloaking tech." Kane glanced at the tactical display, a web of red dots marking enemy ships, shifting and shimmering as they flickered in and out of visibility. The Council's ships were like ghosts, phasing in and out of space-time, almost impossible to lock onto. "They think they're untouchable," Kane said, a dangerous gleam in his eyes. "Let's give them a reason to rethink that." He barked orders, and the Defiance's railguns fired in unison, sending titanium slugs hurtling through space at a fraction of light speed. One slug scraped the edge of an enemy ship, causing its cloaking field to ripple and fail. "There! Focus fire on that one!" Kane shouted. The crew sprang into action, and missile silos opened across the globe, launching a swarm of warheads towards the exposed ship. The alien vessel's shields flared bright purple as they absorbed the impacts, but one missile broke through, piercing the hull. The ship detonated in a brilliant explosion, scattering debris across the void. A cheer erupted in the command center, but Kane didn't join in. He knew this was just the beginning. He turned to Ruiz. "Get me a secure line to all defense networks. We need coordinated strikes. No more shooting blind. Have Dr. Patel's team expedite the quantum entanglement scanners. We need to predict their phase shifts." Ruiz saluted and rushed to relay his orders. Kane took a moment to steady himself. He knew the Council wouldn't take this loss lightly. They'd underestimated humanity once, but now they would come with everything they had. Minutes later, the alien leader's face appeared on the screen again, rage twisting its features. "You dare strike at the Council?" it spat. "Your insolence will be your undoing. You are nothing but a primitive species clinging to the dirt. Your defiance is futile." Kane crossed his arms, his expression cold and unwavering. "Futile? Your ship just went up like fireworks on the 4th of July. Seems to me you're not as invincible as you thought." The alien leader's eyes narrowed, but Kane wasn't finished. "You want Earth? You're gonna have to bleed for it," he growled. "And let me tell you something. Humans don't go down easy. We don't bow to tyrants. We fought our own wars, survived our own hells. You want a fight? We'll give you one you'll never forget." The transmission cut off, and for a moment the room was silent. Then, one by one, the crew began to applaud, their fear giving way to fierce determination. Kane allowed himself a small smile before turning back to the tactical display. Just then, a new signal came through, encrypted but unmistakably human. Ruiz patched it through, and a familiar face appeared. General Marcus Briggs, leader of the European Defense Initiative. "Hell of a show you're putting on, Kane," Briggs said, grinning. "You got the whole damn world fired up. We're mobilizing the orbital rail platforms and bringing the EMP launchers online. Let's see how those bastards like having their systems fried." Kane nodded. "Good. Hit them hard and keep them guessing. We're working on counter-cloaking tech. If we can lock onto their phase signatures, we might just get the upper hand." Briggs smirked. "You always were a stubborn bastard. Let's make sure they regret ever messing with Earth." As the transmission ended, Ruiz returned with new data. "Colonel, Dr. Patel's team just sent over preliminary results. They've managed to partially decode the cloaking pattern. If we integrate it into our targeting systems, we might be able to track them for longer periods." Kane's eyes lit up with renewed hope. "Do it. Get the data to every defense grid and tell them to recalibrate. We're not just surviving this. We're taking the fight to them." In orbit, more Council ships materialized, preparing for a full-scale assault. Kane squared his shoulders and prepared for the next wave. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, but fear had no place here. It was time to teach the galaxy what it meant to defy those who thought they ruled the stars. The next wave came in brutal and relentless, dozens of alien warships phasing in and out like spectral predators. Plasma beams rained down on military installations and major cities alike, scorching the earth and leaving craters in their wake. Kane watched the carnage unfold from the command center, his jaw set in grim determination. "Status update," he barked. Ruiz glanced up from her console. "Adaptive targeting systems are online. We're syncing the cloaking pattern data with the rail platforms and missile defense grids. Hit ratio is up by 23%. Kane nodded. "That's good, but not good enough. We need to drive them back. Make them second-guess every strike." Before Ruiz could respond, the door burst open and Dr. Asha Patel rushed in, her lab coat stained with oil and ash. She looked exhausted but triumphant. "Colonel, we've done it!" she panted. "We cracked the phase modulation algorithm. We can predict their phasing intervals within 1/10 of a second." A slow grin spread across Kane's face. "You're telling me we can see them before they appear?" "Exactly," Patel confirmed. "We just need to distribute the update to every artillery and missile platform on the planet." "Make it happen," Kane ordered. "Ruiz, coordinate with Global Command. Patch the targeting update through the quantum network." "Yes, sir." Moments later, the new data flowed through Earth's defense grid like wildfire. Railguns, previously firing blind, now tracked the ghostly shifts of alien vessels with unnerving precision. One by one, Council ships materialized, only to be blown apart before they could unleash their destructive payloads. The tide was turning. Across the globe, humanity's forces rallied. Armored divisions rolled out from underground bunkers. SAM sites fired precise volleys, and anti-orbit lasers carved through the sky. The alien invaders, once confident of their superiority, began to falter. Kane leaned over the holographic map, watching the red blips vanish one after another. He could feel the morale of his crew lifting with every successful strike. Just then, an urgent message flashed on his screen. It was from General Briggs. "Kane, we've picked up a massive energy signature from the flagship. Looks like they're charging some kind of superweapon. If they fire that thing, it's going to take out half the continent." Kane's stomach twisted, but he kept his voice steady. "What are our options?" Briggs hesitated. "We're trying to get a nuke up there, but they've got a dense energy shield. Nothing we have can punch through." An idea sparked in Kane's mind. It was reckless, suicidal even, but it was the only shot they had. "Patch me through to the Thunderhawk squadron," Kane ordered. Within moments, the faces of 3 ace pilots appeared on the screen, their helmets reflecting the glow of their cockpits. "Thunderhawk leader here. What's the plan, Colonel?" Kane took a deep breath. "You're going to launch a decoy barrage. Give them something to focus on. I'm taking the Defiance up to point-blank range. If I can get close enough, I'll punch a hole in that shield and give you a clear shot." The squadron leader's eyes widened. "That's a hell of a risk, sir." "It's the only play we've got," Kane replied. "If that weapon fires, it's over. Get your team ready." Ruiz approached, her face pale. "You're going up there yourself?" Kane nodded. "I trained half these pilots, and they're damn good, but they need someone to break that shield. I'll do it." A hush fell over the room as Kane stepped onto the flight deck, his boots echoing on the metal floor. Ruiz followed, determination in her gaze. "You're not doing this alone, sir," she insisted. "If you're taking the Defiance up there, I'm coming with you." Kane knew better than to argue. "All right, let's get to the bridge." The engines roared to life, and the Defiance lifted off, its thrusters blazing through the atmosphere. Kane glanced at Ruiz, and she gave him a sharp nod. As they breached the upper atmosphere, the alien flagship loomed ahead, a colossal, menacing presence surrounded by pulsing energy. The weapon was nearly charged, glowing ominously at the ship's core. "Thunderhawk Squadron, engage!" Kane commanded. The fighters streaked past, firing flares and dummy missiles to draw the Council's attention. As predicted, the flagship's defenses lit up, targeting the decoys with precision. "This is it," Kane muttered. "Bring us in close, right between those shield nodes." The Defiance shuddered as plasma beams skimmed its hull. Alarms blared, but Kane ignored them, eyes fixed on the glowing shield barrier just ahead. "Steady, steady," he whispered. Just as they reached point-blank range, Kane activated the shield disruptor, an experimental device cobbled together from alien tech and human ingenuity. It hummed with power before unleashing a pulse that tore a gaping hole in the barrier. "Now!" Kane shouted into the comm. The Thunderhawk swept in, launching nuclear-tipped torpedoes straight through the breach. The flagship's shield snapped back into place just as the warheads detonated. The explosion was catastrophic, ripping the colossal vessel apart from the inside. Fragments of alien metal rained down toward the atmosphere, burning up like shooting stars. Kane exhaled slowly, the adrenaline leaving him shaky. Ruiz managed a breathless laugh. "We did it," she whispered. But Kane knew better than to celebrate just yet. The Council still had ships out there, and they wouldn't take this loss lightly. But for the first time since the invasion began, hope flared bright in his chest. Humanity had struck back, and the galaxy was finally taking notice. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted as news of the flagship's destruction spread like wildfire. People flooded the streets, cheering and waving flags. In shelters and bunkers, families hugged one another, and strangers wept with relief. For the first time since the invasion began, it felt like they had a chance. But Colonel Kane wasn't celebrating. Back on the Defiance, he remained on the bridge, his eyes glued to the holographic display. While most of the alien fleet had scattered after the flagship's destruction, a cluster of ships still lingered in orbit, regrouping. Kane knew it wasn't over, not by a long shot. Ruiz approached cautiously, her own excitement tempered by concern. "Colonel, General Briggs wants a status report. He says morale is skyrocketing, but he's asking for your next move." Kane gave a grim nod. "Patch him through." Briggs's grizzled face appeared on the screen, eyes bright with pride. "Hell of a move up there, Kane. You just gave the whole damn planet a reason to believe." "But it's not done yet," Kane interrupted. "That wasn't their whole fleet. They're regrouping. We need to hit them while they're still disoriented. If we give them time to reorganize, they'll come down on us harder than before." Briggs grunted in agreement. "You're right. My tech teams are analyzing the debris for any data we can use. What's your plan?" "We go on the offensive," Kane replied, his voice steady. "Send strike teams to clean up the remaining ships. We've got the phase signature data, and we know their weak points. If we hit fast and hard, we can break them before they get their bearings." Briggs hesitated. "You're suggesting we take the fight to them, in orbit?" "That's right," Kane said. "If we let them fall back to regroup, they'll come back stronger. We need to show them that Earth isn't just defending. We're retaliating." Briggs' lips curled into a wolfish grin. "God damn, Kane. You've got a spine of steel. I'll get the squadrons prepped. Let's give those bastards a reason to fear us." The line cut off, and Kane turned to Ruiz. "Coordinate with all regional command centers. I want every capable fighter and drone in the air. We're going orbital." Ruiz didn't waste a second, her fingers flying over the console as she relayed the orders. Kane watched the screen as tactical markers began to converge on the remaining Council ships, forming a loose but determined formation. As they prepared for launch, a signal pinged from the Science Division. Dr. Patel's voice came through, thick with urgency. "Colonel, we've recovered some data from the flagship wreckage. It's a transmission log, coded but partially deciphered. You need to see this." Kane arched a brow. "On my way." When he arrived in the lab, Patel was hunched over a monitor, her face tight with worry. She pointed to a string of alien symbols slowly being translated. "It's a distress signal," she explained. "The flagship sent it out just before it exploded. It's broadcasting to a distant sector, a rally point. The message says, 'Insolent species requires eradication, mobilizing reinforcements.'" Kane's stomach dropped. "How long until they get here?" Patel shook her head. "There's no way to know. Could be days, could be hours. But they're definitely sending more." A grim silence settled over the room. Kane's mind raced with possibilities, each one darker than the last. Finally, he made a decision. "We need to consolidate our forces and push the remaining ships out of orbit," he said. "If reinforcements are coming, we can't be sitting ducks. Prepare for evacuation protocols, just in case. If we have to go underground, I want every civilian protected." Patel's eyes widened. "You're talking about abandoning the surface?" "Only if we have no other choice," Kane replied. "We're not giving up the planet, but we can't risk civilian lives. Let's make sure we're ready for anything." Back on the bridge, Kane took his position at the helm, watching as fighter squadrons soared into the sky, forming ranks around the remaining alien ships. The Defiance powered up its thrusters, and with a roar, it shot back into orbit to lead the charge. Ruiz glanced at him, her face tense but determined. "You think we have a shot?" Kane didn't hesitate. "As long as we keep hitting back, they'll think twice before underestimating us again. We've got momentum. Let's use it." As the Earth's combined air and space forces surged forward, Kane's gaze locked onto the Council ships. He knew the reinforcements would be brutal, possibly more advanced than anything they'd seen so far, but fear wasn't an option. "Prepare all batteries," he ordered. "No mercy. We're sending a message of our own. Humanity doesn't break." The crew responded with a unified shout, and the Defiance accelerated, leading the charge toward the heart of the alien formation. Plasma beams lit up the darkness, and railguns thundered in response. And in that moment, Kane knew one thing with absolute certainty. The Council had just made the biggest mistake of their existence. They had underestimated the unbreakable will of Earth. As the Defiance closed in on the alien formation, the Council ships began to reposition, forming a defensive line. Plasma beams lanced out, but Earth's forces weaved through the fire, returning shots with railguns and missiles. Kane kept his focus sharp, issuing rapid orders to maintain formation and exploit gaps in the enemy line. "Target the lead ship," Kane barked. "Concentrate all fire on their command vessel. If we take it out, the others might scatter." The Defiance fired its main cannon, a kinetic round punching straight through the weakened shields of the lead alien ship. A chain reaction of explosions rippled along its hull before the ship finally broke apart, debris scattering into the void. A cheer erupted through the comms, but Kane's instincts screamed that it wasn't over. He glanced at the sensor readouts and saw a cluster of Council ships splitting off, repositioning behind a larger vessel, a dreadnought class that dwarfed the others. "Damn it," Kane muttered. "They're regrouping behind that behemoth. Ruiz, analysis." Ruiz scanned the readings and cursed under her breath. "That ship's got triple-layered shielding and a fusion core the size of a small moon. We can't hit it from a distance." Kane clenched his fists. They needed to get close, dangerously close, to stand a chance of breaching that armor. He took a deep breath and keyed the ship-wide intercom. "All hands, this is Colonel Kane. We're taking the Defiance right into the belly of the beast. Brace for evasive maneuvers and prepare for close-quarters combat. We're going to punch a hole through that dreadnought if it's the last thing we do." The crew responded with a collective shout of resolve, and Kane turned back to Ruiz. "Call in Thunderhawk Squadron. Have them distract the escorts while we hit the dreadnought's core. We'll need to deploy boarding teams to disable the shield generator from the inside." Ruiz's eyes widened. "You're planning to board that thing?" If we don't, they'll flatten Earth, Kane replied. Get the squads prepped and have Lieutenant Harris lead the boarding party. Make sure they've got EMP charges and disruptors. As the Defiance blasted forward, Kane watched as the Thunderhawks drew enemy fire, zigzagging through plasma bursts and shredding escort ships with well-placed torpedoes. The dreadnought loomed closer, its energy barrier crackling with raw power. Just as they approached, the dreadnought unleashed a pulse wave, catching one of the fighters in mid-dodge. The ship spiraled out of control and exploded, debris showering the formation. Kane grimaced but didn't falter. "Brace!" he shouted as the Defiance plowed through a wave of smaller drones. Alarms blared and the hull groaned under the impact. Ruiz called out, "Boarding team ready, sir! They're in position!" Kane watched as the Defiance fired magnetic grappling hooks, latching onto the dreadnought's hull. With a grinding shudder, the boarding pods shot out, embedding themselves into the alien ship. Kane glanced at the monitor and saw Harris's team cutting through the bulkhead. "Lieutenant Harris, report," Kane ordered. The soldier's voice crackled through the communication. "We're inside, sir. Encountered resistance. Nasty buggers with energy blades. Taking heavy fire but pushing forward. Generator room should be 2 decks below." Kane gritted his teeth. "You've got to disable that shield. If we don't break through, we're done for." "Copy that, sir. Moving fast." While Harris and his team fought their way deeper into the dreadnought, Kane kept the Defiance circling the massive vessel, dodging return fire and providing cover for the boarding party. The dreadnought's defenses were formidable, targeting turrets on every side, spraying plasma in all directions. On the comms, a scream burst through. Harris's second-in-command. "We're pinned down! These things keep coming out of the walls!" Kane slammed his fist on the console. "Harris! Do you copy?" A moment of static. Then Harris's voice, breathless and strained. "Still here, sir. Lost half my squad. Setting charges now, damn it. Cover me." Time dragged like molasses as Kane held his breath, waiting for confirmation. Finally, Harris's voice broke through again. "Charges set. Blowing the generator in 3, 2, 1. The view screen flashed with a burst of light as the dreadnought's shield flared and collapsed. Kane wasted no time. "All units, hit the core now!" The combined might of Earth's fleet unleashed hell on the dreadnought, railguns and missiles converging on its exposed center. The colossal ship shuddered, explosions rippling through its structure. Inside, Harris's final transmission came through, his voice weak but triumphant. "Generators down, but we're trapped. Tell my family." The line cut out, and Kane stared at the screen, fighting back the surge of emotion. There wasn't time to grieve. With one final blast from the Defiance's main cannon, the dreadnought's core detonated, vaporizing the ship and its remaining escorts in a blazing inferno. Kane's shoulders sagged as the rest of the Council's fleet scattered, fleeing from Earth's wrath. A deep, weary silence filled the bridge. Ruiz swallowed hard, her hands trembling. "We did it." Kane nodded, eyes fixed on the burning wreckage. "Send the recall order. Bring our people home." The battle was over, but the war wasn't. Reinforcements could arrive at any moment. Yet for now, humanity had earned a fragile victory, one forged through sacrifice and unwavering defiance. As Kane stared into the vastness of space, he made a vow to honor those who had fallen, no matter what came next. Humanity had drawn the line, and the galaxy would never forget it. The adrenaline still thrummed through Kane's veins as the Defiance descended back to Earth, battered but triumphant. Around the world, the news spread like wildfire. Humanity had stood against the might of the Galactic Council and lived to tell the tale. Flags were raised, victory songs played, and people flooded the streets in celebration. But Kane wasn't celebrating. His mind was back on that dreadnought, on Harris and his squad, brave soldiers who had gone in knowing they wouldn't come back. The image of Harris's grim, determined face lingered in his thoughts, and he couldn't help but feel the weight of their loss like a stone in his chest. Ruiz approached him, her usual fiery demeanor tempered with a rare softness. "Colonel, you should get some rest. You haven't slept in 2 days." Kane gave a faint, humorless chuckle. "Sleep can wait. The council's going to come back and they'll be pissed. We need to be ready." Before Ruiz could respond, a transmission came through from General Briggs. His face appeared on the screen, looking as worn out as Kane felt. "Hell of a job up there, Kane," Briggs said, his voice rough but proud. "You did what nobody thought possible. Earth's still standing because of you." Kane gave a reluctant nod. "We did it together, but you know this isn't over. That distress signal means they're bringing reinforcements. We might have a few days, maybe less." Briggs's smile faded. "Yeah, we've been monitoring for FTL signatures. Nothing yet, but we're not dropping our guard. Engineering teams are scavenging council tech from the wreckage, seeing what we can reverse engineer. If we can figure out how to boost our shields or get some of their cloaking tech, we might stand a chance." "Focus on the weapons first," Kane advised. "We need firepower to match theirs. Shields are great, but they won't win us the fight." Briggs nodded. "Copy that. And Kane, I know you lost people up there. Harris and his team were damn good soldiers. We're planning a memorial for everyone who didn't make it. You should say a few words." Kane swallowed hard, nodding again. "Yeah, they deserve that." The line cut out, and Ruiz gave Kane a searching look. "You know, it's okay to take a moment for yourself. You don't always have to carry this alone." Kane looked away, his jaw tightening. "It's my responsibility. They followed my orders. I can't just—" He stopped, forcing himself to breathe. "They knew the risks. They were ready to give everything for Earth. It's not about me." Ruiz hesitated, then gave a small, understanding nod. "You did what had to be done. We all did." Kane pushed the guilt aside and straightened up. "Get the crew debriefed and give them some downtime. We need everyone at their best when the next wave hits." Ruiz saluted and moved off to carry out his orders, leaving Kane alone on the bridge. He stared out the viewport at the vast, dark sky, knowing the stars held enemies that wouldn't forget humanity's defiance. A soft chime pulled him from his thoughts. Dr. Patel appeared on the comms, her face serious but hopeful. "Colonel, I've got something for you. We've managed to decode some of the data from the flagship's core. It's significant." Kane raised an eyebrow. "Go on." Patel took a deep breath. "It's a communication log between council leaders. They're debating whether Earth is worth conquering or simply obliterating. Apparently, our resistance has sparked a divide among them. Some factions see us as a threat, while others think we're not worth the resources to subjugate." Kane frowned. "So they're fighting over whether to wipe us out or enslave us? Not exactly reassuring." "Wait," Patel continued, her eyes glinting with excitement. "There's more. One of the council leaders, a high-ranking strategist, proposed something else. He suggested that if Earth could demonstrate significant technological growth and strategic prowess, they might consider negotiating." Kane almost laughed at the absurdity. "Negotiate? After all this?" Patel nodded. "I know it sounds insane, but if we can capture more of their ships and reverse engineer key technologies, we might just prove we're worth more as allies than as slaves or corpses." A spark of hope flickered in Kane's mind. "We need to get stronger, fast. If we can keep pushing them back while upgrading our capabilities, we might force their hand." Patel smiled for the first time in days. "Exactly. I'll keep working on it. Just thought you should know." As the screen went dark, Kane couldn't help but feel a new resolve hardening within him. They had already proven they wouldn't go down without a fight. Now they had to prove they were too dangerous to mess with at all. Exhaustion gnawed at him, but he forced himself to stay upright. There was still so much to do. Plans to make, soldiers to rally, and defenses to strengthen. But for the first time, it wasn't just about survival. It was about showing the galaxy that humanity wasn't some primitive species to be crushed underfoot. They were warriors, survivors, and they weren't about to be conquered by anyone. Kane took a final look at the dark sky, a fierce determination burning in his chest. "Come on, then," he whispered to the stars. "Let's see if you're brave enough to face us again." The days that followed were a blur of tireless work and grim preparation. Earth's forces consolidated, scavenging alien technology from the wreckage of the Council's ships. Engineering teams worked around the clock, trying to crack the secrets of their plasma weapons and energy shielding. Factories shifted from civilian production to churning out weaponry, armor, and automated defense drones. Kane barely slept, coordinating with military leaders from every continent. Plans were drawn up for worst-case scenarios, underground bunkers reinforced, evacuation routes mapped out. But it wasn't all desperation. Progress was being made. Dr. Patel's team managed to retrofit several of the smaller Council drones, creating hybrid fighter craft with human piloting and alien firepower. One evening, while Kane was poring over tactical reports, Ruiz approached him, holding a data tablet. "You need to see this," she said, her voice tight with urgency. Kane looked up, wary. "More bad news?" Ruiz shook her head, her eyes intense. "It's from the comms team. They intercepted a transmission from deep space. An incoming signal from the Council. It's in the same code as the flagship's distress call." Kane's gut twisted. "What does it say?" She tapped the screen, and a distorted voice crackled through the speakers. Despite the heavy interference, the message was unmistakable. "Reinforcement fleet approaching, commanded by Archon Verith. Earth will be purged." Kane's jaw tightened. Verath. The name wasn't familiar, but the title was. Archons were the Council's most feared warriors, strategists and commanders with centuries of battle experience. This was no ordinary retaliation force. "Estimated time to arrival?" Kane demanded. Ruiz grimaced. 2 days, maybe less. They're faster than the first wave." Kane leaned against the console, his mind racing. He couldn't let fear take root. Not now. "All right. If they're sending an Archon, it means they're serious about wiping us out. We need to hit them before they have a chance to regroup." Ruiz hesitated. "You're planning a preemptive strike? Out there?" "It's the only chance we've got," Kane replied. "If we let them form up in orbit, they'll blast us to pieces. We take the fight to them while they're still arriving, hit them hard and fast." Ruiz gave a slow nod. "I'll get the squadrons ready. Are we deploying the hybrid fighters?" "Every single one," Kane said. "And get Dr. Patel on the line. I want those shield disruptors outfitted on our largest railguns. If we're facing an Archon, we'll need every advantage we can get." An hour later, Kane addressed his crew and the Allied leaders through a secure transmission. He laid out the plan, an all-out assault to catch the reinforcement fleet before it could form up. It was risky, but hesitation would mean annihilation. General Briggs chimed in, his tone laced with determination. "We've got your back, Kane. Europe's mobilizing its orbital batteries. We'll lay down cover fire while you move in." Kane nodded. "We don't stop until every last ship is scrap. If Verith wants Earth, he's going to have to fight tooth and nail for every inch." When the Archon's fleet emerged from FTL, they found the void of space already swarming with Earth's makeshift armada. Hybrid fighters screamed through the dark, plasma bolts streaking past them as they weaved between hulking Council warships. The Archon's flagship, an immense obsidian dreadnought with glowing crimson veins, loomed at the center of the formation. The Defiance surged forward, railguns blazing, and Kane gave the order to fire the disruptor-equipped cannons. Lances of blue energy arced out, slamming into the dreadnought's shields. The barrier flickered, destabilized, but didn't collapse. "Focus fire on those shield nodes," Kane shouted. "If we can break one, the whole grid might overload." Thunderhawk's squadron dove in, launching piercing plasma torpedoes at the weak points. One node erupted in sparks, and the shield wavered, giving Kane a brief opening. "All batteries, concentrate on that spot." Explosions blossomed along the dreadnought's hull, but the ship retaliated with a wave of energy pulses that sliced through several hybrid fighters. The remaining alien ships fought back ferociously, but the human forces had become something more, something fierce and unyielding. Inside the flagship, Archon Varath watched with a contemptuous sneer. His voice boomed through the comms, deep and disdainful. "Pathetic insects! Your defiance is an insult to the stars. You will be extinguished." Kane snarled and activated his own transmission. "You think Earth's just going to roll over for you? You came here expecting submission, but all you'll find is a graveyard for your empire." Varath merely glared, his crimson eyes burning with malice. "Then I shall see your world burn." Kane wasn't about to let that happen. "Ruiz, prepare the final strike. Target the reactor core. We're ending this now." The Defiance barreled forward, weaving between enemy fire. The flagship's reactor glowed like a molten heart, protected by thick armor plating. But Kane knew that if they could overload it, the resulting explosion would take out half the enemy fleet. As they closed in, Varath's flagship launched a concentrated beam of pure energy, carving through space and grazing the Defiance's side. Alarms screamed, but Kane pushed through the damage, his eyes locked on the target. "All remaining fighters, cover us! We're going for the core!" In a desperate charge, Earth's ships threw themselves at the alien flagship, laying down suppressing fire as the Defiance unleashed its payload. Plasma lances and railgun slugs smashed into the core, cracking it open. "Now!" Kane shouted, and the final volley pierced the reactor. A blinding explosion erupted, and the shockwave rippled through the void, tearing Varath's dreadnought apart. The remaining council ships, leaderless and shattered, scattered into retreat. Silence fell as the last enemy vessel fled. Kane sagged back in his seat, hardly believing it was over. Ruiz wiped a tear from her cheek, barely able to contain her relief. "Colonel," she whispered, "we did it." Kane looked out at the wreckage and let out a long, slow breath. "Earth held the line," he murmured. "We did more than survive. We fought back and won." Across the planet, the people of Earth cheered and wept, knowing that they had not only defended their home, but had shown the galaxy that humanity was not to be trifled with. They were survivors, warriors, and more than just a small, insignificant world. And as Kane looked up at the stars, he knew that the universe would never forget the day Earth said no to tyranny and made the galaxy respect their unbreakable spirit.